Hello, everyone. Welcome to Facts Pro, where it's all about facts, financial, accounting, and tax strategies. Today, we want to talk about the accounting part of it, financial and accounting. So, we want to talk about the accounting part because when I deal with my clients and when I work with a lot of clients, especially in the beginning, and when I talk to them about their finances, when I ask about how much they made, I find out that they usually have no idea, or they may have some idea, but when I look at the tax returns from like prior years, it's something totally different from what they knew or what they expected. Or when we file a tax return at the end of the year and they find themselves in a big tax liability and they're like, oh, but I only have in my bank account X amount. How come I owe this much to tax for taxes? So there is a lot of questions that usually arise because we only look at the balance at the bank statement and we say, okay, I have 100K in the bank statement. That means I made 100K net income this year. But that's totally wrong. That's not the right way to look at your finances and your financial statements. As a medical practice owner, as a physician, looking at your bank statement, doing your bookkeeping on your own is like me treating myself using YouTube channels. It doesn't work this way, and it's not the right way. Hence the reason why I wanted to do today's live about this. Why you need not only a bookkeeper, not only just looking at your bank statement, you need more than that. You need a virtual CFO by your side. And who would that be like ideal for? All right, so let's dig in. I'm gonna share my screen. As you know, I like to start with a joke. So this is the one I found relevant to all the bookkeeping side of things. So let's start. I want to hide this. Yes, here we go. So it says, do you know what it means when all your financial statements are in red ink? And it's like, okay, maybe this is the time for me to change the printer cartridge. And yes, it kills me when I see negatives on a balance sheet, assets, or negatives and liabilities, or things in red ink does not mean that you just need to change the printer cartridge. It means more than that. It means something is wrong, something is not really right. And when you have a net loss while you're supposed to have a net profit, this is also not the right thing to have. This is not our goal here. All right, so let's start. Let's see. Why physicians and medical practice owners need a virtual CFO to drive growth. So let me paint the picture for you. Now, let's say you have a bookkeeper or you're doing it on your own. Maybe you're doing a decent job, but maybe you're just entering transactions. You're just recording what's out there. You check your bank account to feel safe. If it's positive, you assume that you're good. But there are some challenges to that. You have no clue about your actual profitability. You have no idea which services are costing you money. Of course, that's more relevant if you're providing more than one service. And you don't have any forecast, you don't have any budget, you don't have any plan. And that means you're being reactive instead of being proactive. You're just looking at the things after the fact. You're not being proactive about your financial position. All right, so how can we resolve this problem? By knowing, first, by knowing the difference between a bookkeeper and a virtual CFO. A bookkeeper, their focus is just to enter your data. So their data entry, doing maybe bank reconciliations, this is all they do. But a virtual CFO, they focus on a strategy. They do analysis. They're forward looking and to give you an advice based on that, based on the history, what we see in the books, how can we advise going forward on how to change that? So that's our focus as a virtual CFO. A bookkeeper, the output that comes out of that reports that show you the past. But again, the virtual CFO, they give you insights that drive your future decisions. Interactions, maybe you interact with your bookkeeper on an occasional monthly update. They give you what's going on. But with the virtual CFO, we give you ongoing conversation. There is a real-time guidance on how can you do better. That's always our goal. So not only to keep the records clean, but to drive profitability, to boost it up, to be efficient, not just effectiveness, not just doing things right, but doing things right using the least resources, and to drive your growth. This is always our goal because if you remember the pillars we're talking about profitability. We want to boost this up in addition to reduce your tax liability. So we want to work on both, and this is how you actually grow. So an example of this is like a bookkeeper tells you, oh, you spent 20K on a staff, but a virtual CFO can ask you, was that a staff efficient? Would that staffing decision, would that spending, would that expense, was it efficient? Can we maybe adjust the schedule to improve the margin? Can we do something better? Can we recruit maybe another agency? Maybe this agency wasn't a good one for you. We start to ask questions. We start to open your minds to things that makes you make better decisions. All right? Okay. So what a virtual CFO unlocks? First, to better understanding of your true profitability per service, per provider, per location if you have different locations. We want you to know if you're actually profitable or what is the situation here. Strategic tax planning tailored to medical professionals because we're not only doing bookkeeping, we're not only entering data, we're also doing tax planning that we can tell you what are the deductions available to you. We can open your mind to things that you had no idea it existed. In addition to proactive cash flow management, so you're never caught off guard. Like cash flow is very, very essential to any business that's going on. Maybe you're past due on your billings. Maybe you need to hire someone to do your AR billing and to be more proactive on that and to like reduce your cash flow burden. Budgeting and forecasting for smarter planning. Some levels you may need to do some budgeting and forecasting, not just looking at the past, but also forecasting the future. All right. Also, financial dashboards. There is no more guessing from your bank balance. You can't just look at the bank balance and say, okay, I have this much. That means I'm profitable that much. It doesn't work this way because it might be including some personal expenses. It might be including some fixed assets that you want expense on the year. It depends on your situation. Maybe you will take an expense fully, but maybe not. So it depends on your situation. We can take a look at the financials and educate you along the way so that you are like familiar with what's going on. You can actually understand what's your business and your financial position. How is your business doing from a financial standpoint? And from there, you grow. All right, so when would you actually hire a virtual CFO? When would this be needed and ideal for you? First of all, you're making over 500K in gross revenue and you're still unsure where is it going. You have no idea how much you spend it. You don't know how much you spend on payroll versus independent contractors versus your personal expenses versus everything else that's available out there. If you are not sure and you don't have actual picture of what's going on, you need to hire a virtual CFO. You have multiple providers or locations. That would be ideal if you need to split your revenue and expenses between multiple providers or multiple locations. You're looking to expand, invest, or reduce burnout. You're looking to minimize your tax liability. You think your practice is profitable, but you can't prove it. You really don't know how much you're making. If you are in the dark, you really need to know what's going on and how to do better on this side. I can tell you enough of how many physicians that appreciated so much our quarterly meetings and our monthly meetings in some cases that tell them, okay, this is how much you've done last month. This is how much you've done last quarter. What do you think went wrong? Or we can also point out to them what went wrong, or what we say, oh, there is a flag here. Why your marketing expenses went up so much, even though it didn't bring you much revenue. So we point out the points that you may not have thought of, you may not thought if this is actually a good strategy or not. You spend on marketing agency, but you don't know if it's driving you the revenue you were hoping for. So when we go over this together, it helps you take better decisions going forward. All right, so from where it would, oh yeah, so it's again, if you went this far and you think this is the right thing for me, I want to start this. It's a very simple three-step process. First of all, we do a discovery call. Like, give me a call, book a time on your calendar. We're gonna do fact-finding discussion. We'll be talking about your business. We'll be discovering more about what you do and how things are going for you. How do you keep the books? Is it an Excel sheet? Is it an online software? Is it a free version? Is it what kind of software do you have? Or do you keep it off the bank statement? Do you have any idea what you're doing or not really? Because just a week ago, I came across a client that was totally in the dark, had his accountant do his tax returns, and is like, yeah, my accountant knows. I'm like, okay, your accountant knows what's on your tax return. Do you have the backup for these numbers? If the IRS comes and audits you, would you have a backup for the amount of revenue you had, for the amount of expenses you're claiming? If you don't have that sort of backup, if you don't have that software reports, then something is not right. And unfortunately, his accountant was retiring. So that added a burden, because when the IRS knocks on the door, his accountant is not there. He won't even be available at the time. So it's a very challenging situation. So when we do a discovery call, we go over all the fact finding. Number two, we go through a diagnostic process to identify where is the problem. Is it that you are in the dark and you don't know what's going on? Is it because you rely on your accountant and you think they're doing a good job, but when you take a second opinion, you say, oh, that's a mess. There's something wrong. Your AP is in the negative, your AR is in the negative. Why there is a fixed asset that's reported as an expense? Why the opposite? So there are things like that. We identify the problem and we start focus on the solution, and we make a recommendation from there, and we go through the treatment. We explain and implement the treatment procedure so that you go from in the dark to totally in the light. All right, so again, continue the conversation. Start with your free 30-minute consultation today to do our discovery call. And from there, we can talk about whether we're a good fit to help you with your business or maybe not. All right, talk to you later. Bye.